Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. The mission for Democrats this week was to offer a clear contrast for voters in November. They were right on target, and last night President Obama sealed the deal. The president did not offer platitudes or easy answers, but he offered a stark choice.
I won't pretend the path I'm offering is quick or easy. I never have. You didn't elect me to tell you what you wanted to hear. You elected me to tell you the truth. And the truth is, it will take more than a few years for us to solve challenges that have built up over decades. It'll require common effort and shared responsibility, and the kind of bold, persistent experimentation that Franklin Roosevelt pursued during the only crisis worse than this one.
I think we can all agree that the country needs a little bit of confidence right now, and I think the president took care of that last night. I think we all feel better about it, especially liberals and progressives. One of the biggest mistakes of the Republican convention last week was the lack of confidence in vision and direction for the country. Americans are optimists, we believe, and President Obama explained why the Republicans were not offering a prescription for positive change.
Now, our friends down in Tampa at the Republican convention were more than happy to talk about everything they think is wrong with America, but they didn't have much to say about how they'd make it right. They want your vote, but they don't want you to know their plan. And that's because all they have to offer is the same prescriptions they've had for the last 30 years. Have a surplus? Try a tax cut. Deficit too high? Try another. Feel a cold coming on? Take 2 tax cuts, roll back some regulations, and call us in the morning.
President Obama didn't take his foot off the pedal either. Issue by issue, he pointed out why the Republicans have not offered specific plans, because they don't have any.
Over and over, we've been told by our opponents that bigger tax cuts and fewer regulations are the only way. That since government can't do everything, it should do almost nothing. If you can't afford health insurance, hope that you don't get sick. If a company releases toxic pollution into the air your children breathe, well, that's the price of progress. If you can't afford to start a business or go to college, take my opponent's advice and borrow money from your parents.
You know, in a lot of ways, this speech was President Obama's vision versus the inability of the Republicans to present a very clear vision for America. The president asked Americans to help him achieve his vision.
I'm asking you to rally around a set of goals for your country. Goals in manufacturing, energy, education, national security, and the deficit. Real, achievable plans that will lead to new jobs, more opportunity, and rebuild this economy on a stronger foundation. That's what we can do in the next 4 years, and that is why I am running for a second term as President of the United States.
Well, the critics said the president's speech was nothing but lip service. The question is whether the president can deliver more job opportunities, an improved economy in another 4 years in office. Does he deserve the shot? Here's a response to the critics who are out and about. A year ago, I think we have to point this out. A year ago, the president unveiled the American Jobs Act. This is it. Never got a notice. It was fully paid for, and would have created up to 2 million jobs. Republicans, they made sure it was dead on arrival in the Congress. Last September, the president went on the road. He toured the country pushing for infrastructure upgrades, spending for construction jobs, infrastructure attention, bridges, roads. It would have created jobs instantly. He even spoke at a damaged bridge in House Speaker John Boehner's district. But Republicans still blocked any attempt at new job proposals. They were sitting there thinking, you know, we only got 1 more year to go here. Why help him now? Despite the engines of Washington running against the president, despite the historic number of filibusters in a do-nothing Congress, and despite the partisan agenda designed to take down this presidency, what do we have? Well, we still have 30 consecutive months of private sector job growth. Imagine that, without anybody else's help. This is all under President Obama's watch. What he was handed, what he's done with it. At the end of this chart, You're going to see the numbers for August. It's okay. 96,000 new jobs were added. But think about this. The 96,000 jobs that were added, Republicans didn't help you get that job. Could have been a lot better. But we're still adding jobs despite all of these Republican efforts of obstruction. Imagine what the employment situation would be like if the 2 million jobs the president had added. Would it have been a different climate last night? Would there be a different feeling in the country if he could step up and say, you know, we've added 2 million jobs in the last year? Would you feel like the country was going in the right direction? Of course you would. There'd be no doubt. Now, the Democratic Party spent 3 days making this case. It's early, but so far it looks like the American people are starting to agree with the president. President's approval rating rebounded in the daily Gallup tracking poll. He's at 52%. 52%, 7 points higher than his approval rating before the convention. Maybe it's because Americans across the country are understanding what this country has actually been up against. There has been a group of elected officials who were supposed to go to Washington and help make the country better. They've gone to Washington to try to make it worse because they don't like the guy in the Oval Office. Americans understand Mitt Romney is not offering a vision to get us out of these problems.
And if you share that faith with me, if you share that hope with me, I ask you tonight for your vote. If you reject the notion that this nation's promise is reserved for the few, your voice must be heard in this election. If you reject the notion that our government is forever beholden to the highest bidder, you need to stand up in this election. If you believe in a country where everyone gets a fair shot and everyone does their fair share and everyone plays by the same rules, then I need you to vote this November.
Think about how trivial the conversations have been coming from the Republicans. Oh, he's not an American. We don't know where he was born. That last soundbite, did that guy look like he cared about America? Did it look like he wanted Americans to get a job? This election is 60 days away. The choice is before all of us. You will decide who makes the best case for America's future. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think tonight. Tonight's question: who makes the better case for America's future? Text A for President Obama, text B for Mitt Romney to 622-639. You can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com. Leave a comment there. We encourage that. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. I'm joined tonight by MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff and Eugene Robinson, MSNBC political analyst and associate editor and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for The Washington Post. Gentlemen, great to have you with us tonight.
Thanks,
I want to start with that last clip we showed was President Obama getting kind of cranked up, getting, forceful, making the case. But I thought that there was a tone strategy last night not to oversell. Richard, what do you think about that?
Ed, let me just say, I'm getting more than a little bit of sick and tired of hearing that Republican critics make this claim that this tone, the pitch of this speech was flat, there was nothing in it, and it's been repeated through the day by lazy journalists with all the recall of a goldfish around a very small glass bowl. This president, as a candidate and in office, has always taken these big moments and toned things down. You don't have to be flying on the wings of oratory at these moments, because the big moments speak for themselves. I was in the arena. There are people out there who were just thrilled to see him and reacted with passion to every line he delivered. The big speeches this president delivered as a candidate were when he was in a hole. He needed to deliver a big speech in New Hampshire when they lost, or when Reverend Wright burst out onto the scene and he was talking about race in Philadelphia. This was a moment when the moment spoke for itself, and the speech delivered in terms of the framing and certainly in terms of the delivery. So enough with the lazy memories and the glossing over. This president, for his inaugural, for his acceptance 4 years ago, and last night, tones it down in the big moments.
Eugene, do you think the president motivated supporters and swing voters? I mean, asking for the vote the way he did, I thought was a very effective moment.
Yeah, it is always effective, I think, in politics to ask in that way. It creates more loyalty, actually, than anything else when people respond. I thought it certainly inspired supporters of the president, and I think he went a long way. I think the whole week went a long way toward appealing to independents, even those who might be disenchanted with the way things went the past 4 years, to take stock and to listen to what the Republicans are saying and listen to what the president is saying and make a choice. And I think that's the sort of consideration the president wants.
President Obama was on the campaign trail today repeating his argument about the Republican vision. Here it is.
Tax cuts, gut some regulations. Oh, and more tax cuts. Tax cuts when times are good, tax cuts when times are bad. Tax cuts to help you lose a few extra pounds. Tax cuts to improve your love life. It'll cure anything, according to them.
What about this approach, Richard, this argument? How does it play out for the president, the way he's handling it? He's almost mixing in some comedy and some jabbing along the way with this. It's a very serious issue. We got to fix the Treasury, and it is about the tax cuts.
Look, successful candidates can jab and punch and do it with a sense of humor. President Clinton did it. President Bush did it too. So that is a skill. It's a skill that Mitt Romney hasn't shown yet. Maybe he'll pick it up along the way. But one thing you've got to understand about this phase, the next big thing that Mitt Romney is already doing his homework for are the presidential debates. What President Obama did last night and what he's doing on the trail is setting up the debates. He is knocking down their arguments systematically. So when he gets to the debates, people are already primed. That's why he's taking down their arguments one by one, especially this framing. Yes, tax cuts, the same old ideas, tax cuts for everything, but also what you heard in that clip right at the top of the show. Just because government cannot do everything doesn't mean that government should do almost nothing. You're going to hear that line again and again before we go into those debates.
And quickly, Eugene, the job numbers today. Does this put a damper on the president's speech and the convention?
Well, the job numbers today were a downer. I mean, now it's continued job growth. And predictions were that the job number would be something like 200,000. It ended up being 96,000. But my view is that the economy is what it is. We have growth that is too slow. There are reasons for that. There are things that could be fixed and things that would be difficult to fix. It's a long slog. The president already made that argument. I think he's going to have to keep making it, especially because we have to go to the election with the economy we have, not with the economy we would like to have.
Yeah. Richard Wolff, Eugene Robinson, you gentlemen are the best. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Remember to answer tonight's question there at the bottom of the screen. Share your thoughts on Twitter at Ed Show and on Facebook. We always want to know what you think. Coming up, Romney failed to mention the troops in his acceptance speech. And now his explanation is making matters even worse. John Soltz, VoteVets.org, coming up. Stay with us.